Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. Today we bring you some significant news. King Charles make a shocked decision against Camilla over royal heirloom. An insider source indicates that King Charles has sent a warning to Queen Camilla over a royal treasure of significant personal value to him. The insider said that Camilla's conduct has greatly disappointed King Charles, prompting him to issue a forceful remark to Queen Camilla. This movie will explore the rationale behind King Charles's choice and Camilla's response to it. The royal heirloom, an emblem of heritage and identity. The lost ring represented more than mere adornment. It served as a concrete connection to centuries of royal heritage. The pinky ring, fashioned from precious Welsh gold, included the crest of the Prince of Wales, a sign inherited by Charles's family for decades. Prince Philip initially wore it, and then Prince Andrew of Greece and Denmark owned it until Charles himself acquired it. He had constantly worn it since the 1970s, signifying a subtle but significant link to his heritage and the accompanying duties. To the public, it represented a vestige of royal tradition, yet to Charles, it had profound personal significance, a testament to his father's history and the gravity of his responsibilities as king. The vanishing of the ring soon after his coronation represented not only a physical loss, but also a disconnection from history. Charles, renowned for his profound respect for history and legacy, has always regarded the ring as more than just an accessory. It represented continuity, a historical artifact that connected him to his predecessors. Its absence was unsettling, and the unexplained nature of it further intensified the enigma. Palace sources saw that Charles had been more unsettled in the days subsequent to its disappearance. He meticulously searched his rooms, interrogated the staff, and personally examined surveillance video trying to ascertain its last known position. The importance of the ring transcended Charles's personal connection. In royal etiquette, heirlooms possess significant symbolic importance, embodying both obligation and identity. The disappearance at such a critical juncture in his rule intensified the prevailing disquiet. Some conjectured that its disappearance was an omen, a disturbance in the meticulously preserved continuity of the monarchy. Some speculated that its removal was intentional, a strategic maneuver with profound consequences. As the quest for the ring escalated, one name always emerged: Camilla. What is the rationale for her involvement? What implications did it have for the stability of the royal household? A heritage in gold. The ring's profound importance. For Charles, the pinky ring was not only a familial treasure, but also a sign of obligation, identity, and the uninterrupted lineage of royal history. Its roots may be attributed to an era when the monarchy remained a significant governmental authority, with each item of regalia and jewelry embodying not only aesthetic value but also historical significance. The ring's composition of Welsh gold rendered it uncommon, a material typically designated for royal wedding rings, symbolizing both status and a link to the region. In addition to its artistry, the ring displayed the crest of the Prince of Wales, a symbol of power worn by successive heirs to the throne. For Charles, who had devoted decades to the position of Prince of Wales prior to his ascension to the throne, the ring was a very personal relic. It represented his heritage and the years of preparation, anticipation, and obligation that defined his life. Charles had adorned his hand with the ring for more than 50 years, a steadfast companion throughout both public and private occasions. It had followed him during his first military duty, his tenure as a royal ambassador, and even his most intimate tribulations, his unsuccessful marriage to Princess Diana, the death of his mother, and his long-anticipated coronation. For him, it served as a subtle but constant reminder of his historical significance, a concrete connection to the individuals who had worn it before him. Its unexplained disappearance was not only unsettling, it constituted a disruption in his inner story. He was consistently diligent in upholding royal traditions, meticulously shaping his position as both sovereign and custodian of legacy. Losing this personal marker of ancestry harmed both his identity and the monarchy's continuity. In addition to its emotional and symbolic importance, the ring's loss also had political and historical ramifications. Royal heirlooms are not only personal belongings, they constitute a segment of the crown's collection meticulously catalogued and safeguarded. The disappearance of such a precious and significant relic prompted inquiries about the security of the palace and the integrity of the royal family. Insiders within the palace perceived its absence as a sign of instability, challenging the carefully upheld facade of order and tradition. The loss of an important object posed a threat to the foundations of royal power in a monarchy that depended on symbolism and continuity. The quest for the absent heirloom. The quest for the lost ring rapidly intensified into a critical and covert endeavor inside Buckingham Palace. Charles, clearly agitated, mandated a comprehensive inquiry resolute in his pursuit of the facts behind its vanishing. Rooms were systematically examined from the king's private study to the more publicly accessible apartments where he was last seen wearing the ring. Personnel were interrogated under stringent confidentiality, while royal officials meticulously reviewed surveillance video in an attempt to ascertain its last known whereabouts. Notwithstanding their efforts, no conclusive clues emerged, and the enigma intensified. As the hunt progressed, focus naturally shifted to Queen Camilla. The palace, despite its usual prudence, could not overlook the escalating murmurs among the personnel. Camilla's response, or absence of one, had attracted skepticism. Despite Charles's obvious distress over the setback, Camilla maintained her composure, appearing almost disinterested. She neither inquired about the investigation's status, nor offered aid in discovering the lost artifact. Several aides observed that she seemed remarkably aloof, continuing her responsibilities as if nothing had changed. Others characterized her as aloof, avoiding discussions on the ring, and providing only ambiguous replies when questioned. The contrast between Charles's evident anguish and Camilla's composed manner was apparent. He had always been diligent in safeguarding royal antiques, and the loss of such an important historical item pained him profoundly. His dissatisfaction was evident, and those closest to him noted that he grew more reclusive, his typical serenity yielding to an unusual feeling of urgency. Simultaneously, Camilla's conduct just intensified conjecture. Some assumed she was only attempting to maintain propriety, eschewing public displays of worry for a private issue. Conversely, others were less forgiving in their evaluations, positing that her seeming indifference signified a more intentional disposition. The unarticulated tension between the royal couple was unmistakable. Charles, who always esteemed tradition and etiquette, encountered conflict with Camilla's ostensibly indifferent demeanor. The episode, while seeming trivial to outsiders, signified the beginning of a profound schism. The significance extended beyond the ring. It included trust obligation and the implicit expectations that dictated their positions within the monarchy. As the search continued without result, the ambiance inside the palace became more tense, preparing for the imminent, dramatic showdown. A transition in authority. Camilla's ascending influence. As time elapsed without a resolution about the lost ring, the latent tensions between King Charles and Queen Camilla became more evident. Individuals in proximity to the royal couple saw a nuanced but unmistakable change in Camilla's demeanor, an escalating assertiveness seen by some as confidence, while others regarded it as overreach. Recently, Camilla has further separated herself from the conventional role of a queen consort, a position traditionally characterized by support and discretion. She had begun to build a more autonomous presence, one that challenged the conventional assumptions of her job. Camilla's expanding impact was most apparent during her public appearances. During the first months of Charles's reign, she maintained a calculated presence, meticulously coordinating with the king's agenda and public appearances. Over time, she increasingly made solo appearances, sometimes without previously consulting Charles or his closest aides. She was seen at cultural events, charitable occasions, and political assemblies where she spoke her views with confidence on matters of personal significance. Certain individuals inside the palace saw this as a natural progression. Following years of scrutiny and criticism, Camilla was ultimately assuming her post with a feeling of authority. Others, however, saw it as a breach of decorum, an action that obscured the distinctions between her role and that of the king. The most contentious moment occurred when the official royal website was discreetly modified to indicate a change in Camilla's title. What formerly read Queen Consort now only states Queen. The modification was nuanced, but its ramifications were considerable. Queen Elizabeth II explicitly desired that Camilla be designated as Queen Consort, a choice intended to recognize her position while preserving the separation between her and the sovereign. Charles, having honored his mother's request, allegedly did not sanction the alteration. When questioned, royal officials were evasive, providing no definitive rationale for the modification. The exclusion of consort was not only a grammatical issue, it was a decisive declaration that Camilla was establishing her position within the monarchy on her own terms. Charles saw this transformation in Camilla's public role. Individuals in his vicinity characterized his escalating unease over the circumstances. He always esteemed history and custom, and the subtle but intentional alterations to Camilla's role disturbed him. He did not oppose her visibility. He had always endorsed her involvement in royal matters, but he believed the alterations were implemented without his consultation. The growing rift between them transcended the missing ring. It pertained to power influence and the shifting dynamics of their relationship within the monarchy. A royal disclosure. Camilla's unapproved interview. The discord between King Charles and Queen Camilla escalated when Camilla had an exclusive interview with a notable media outlet, an engagement that was neither sanctioned by the royal household nor devoid of revelations that astonished many inside Buckingham Palace. The interview, extensively covered by international news outlets, was presented as an uncommon and frank exploration of the Queen's personal perspectives on the monarchy, her position, and her relationship with the king. However, it was her disclosures of private discussions with Charles that caused the most significant upheaval among the royal establishment. During the interview, Camilla candidly discussed her conversations with Charles over the monarchy's future. She articulated a vision that included the modernization of royal traditions, the redefinition of the monarchy's role in contemporary society, and the potential reduction of the working royal family. More controversially, she disclosed that Charles had articulated apprehensions over the pertinence of certain royal engagements, implying that some occasions had become antiquated and superfluous. Although these words seemed innocuous to the public, they were profoundly concerning to the palace staff and top advisors. Camilla had deliberated a significant portion of her revelations in private sessions where she anticipated anonymity. By disclosing these chats publicly without Charles's consent or awareness, she violated etiquette and compromised the king's power. The release of the interview reverberated throughout the palace. Charles, renowned for his composed demeanor, was allegedly astonished by the disclosure. He was not advised of Camilla's intention to address the press, nor had the chance to examine the interview's substance. For him, this was not only a violation of trust, but a direct affront to his authority as king. The monarchy, especially under Charles's guidance, has always depended on a well-crafted narrative that harmonizes tradition with contemporary expectations. Camilla's remarks, albeit perhaps well-meaning, upset that equilibrium and positioned the royal family in a precarious situation. The repercussions were instantaneous. Senior advisors hurried to mitigate the fallout, providing discreet assurances that the king's stance on royal engagements had not altered. Camilla's acts elicited a mix of admiration and apprehension among the palace inhabitants. Some saw her interview as a courageous declaration of her individuality, indicative of her embracing her job with renewed assurance. Conversely, others saw it as an imprudent action that may undermine the fragile relationship between the royal couple. The interview revealed confidential internal talks and indicated a change in Camilla's strategy, one for which Charles was evidently unprepared. The Confrontation, a Sovereign Reckoning. The morning after the broadcast of the interview, the ambiance at Buckingham Palace was laden with anxiety. Charles, evidently disturbed by the disclosures, had hardly slept. Messages were sent to Camilla the previous night, although she had not returned to the palace. Upon her arrival the next morning, her manner was remarkably composed, head up, gaze directed forward, providing no recognition of the turmoil around her. The staff observed quietly as she proceeded to the private apartments where Charles awaited. No salutation or effort at conciliation was made. Upon her entrance into the room, Charles addressed her. He did not elevate his voice, but his comments had a gravitas that instilled a shiver in the atmosphere. "You acted covertly," he said, his tone controlled but infused with ire. "You disclosed confidential conversations publicly. You made decisions about the monarchy without my consultation." He continued further. His frustration, having long been suppressed, finally manifested. "The ring is now absent. Who appropriated it?" The inquiry lingered laden with reproach. Camilla remained unperturbed. She remained still, her countenance inscrutable. Subsequently, she silently retrieved the ring from her purse. She positioned it on the table between them, her tone serene, almost excessively so. "That which pertains to the king is mine," she said. The language was straightforward, but its ramifications were profound. Charles gazed at the ring in astonishment, his expression a mix of rage and sorrow. The incident went beyond the mere theft of the artifact. It included themes of power, trust, and the transgressions of established limits. For Charles, Camilla's actions constituted a multifaceted betrayal. She had appropriated something very intimate, exuding an air of entitlement, as if she had the right to assert ownership over it. He had reduced the ring, symbolic of his heritage and obligation, to a mere pawn in a power struggle. For Camilla, the gesture was not an act of stealing. It was a declaration. She had devoted years to maneuvering the expectations imposed upon her, often scrutinized for her role inside the royal family. By accepting the ring, she was affirming her position, seizing a piece of history that she deemed rightly hers. The encounter signified a pivotal moment. The tacit equilibrium between them had been disrupted. Charles no longer saw Camilla as his trusted confidant. He perceived her as an individual who had used his most profound symbols to recontextualize their connection. At that point, the basis of their union was irreversibly changed. A palace in disarray. The consequences of the confrontation. In the aftermath of the heated incident, the ambiance inside Buckingham Palace underwent a significant transformation. The once cohesive royal household now seemed disjointed, with an unarticulated anxiety pervading the passageways. Camilla, once a prominent and engaged presence in royal activities, started her withdrawal from public life. Although no formal announcement was issued, her absence was conspicuous. She neglected planned engagements, rejected invites to significant events, and essentially kept out of public view. Some conjectured that she was withdrawing to avoid more examination, while others posited that she was only allowing Charles time to contemplate the events that had occurred. The alteration in her presence reverberated throughout the palace and beyond, irrespective of the cause. Charles, in the meanwhile, became more reclusive. Individuals in his immediate circle saw a significant change in his behavior. He exhibited more restraint, heightened caution, and a discernible distance from Camilla. The monarch, who had hitherto depended on her for emotional support and private advice, now sought direction from his top advisors and long-standing associates. He reassumed duties that had before been assigned to Camilla, personally scrutinizing his public agenda, evaluating interview requests, and making decisions that had previously been at her discretion. The reallocation of responsibilities was understated, but consequential. It indicated a change in the power dynamics inside the royal household. The palace personnel noticed the shift in power dynamics. Veterans of royal service accustomed to the meticulously structured protocols began to perceive a fundamental shift. Meetings became briefer. Exchanges between Charles and Camilla had a more official tone, and the customary cadence of the palace was interrupted. Certain staff members speaking confidentially articulated a prevailing feeling of disquiet, suggesting that the royal couple was no longer functioning as a whole entity. The once unwavering bond between them had become unstable, and the consequences began to manifest in both overt and covert ways. Outside the palace confines, the media and royal observers started speculating on the ramifications of Camilla's withdrawal and Charles's circumspect demeanor. The monarchy has always depended on a meticulously crafted picture of unity that conveys stability, tradition, and continuity. With Camilla withdrawing and Charles becoming further isolated, that image was starting to deteriorate. Inquiries emerged over the future of their relationship, namely whether the split was a transient discord or the start of a more enduring realignment. The quiet on the issue intensified curiosity, prompting the public and the press to ponder what, if anything, would occur next. The absent ring, an emblem of fractured trust. Despite the ring's return to Charles, its lack of public visibility in the subsequent weeks conveyed important meanings. The monarch, who had worn it continuously for almost 50 years, no longer exhibited it on his hand at formal functions. Those who closely monitored the monarchy witnessed this alteration. For years, the ring had been a constant, a subtle but enduring emblem of his lineage and obligation. The absence of Charles from the public eye has prompted inquiries. Was he opting for privacy after the incident, or was the concealment a calculated gesture, a nuanced but potent declaration on the betrayal he endured? Certain palace insiders said that Charles opted to conceal the ring as a subtle form of dissent, separating himself from the anguish and treachery associated with its theft. Some speculated that Charles deliberately chose not to wear the ring, using it as a tool to reclaim control over the stolen property. The events surrounding its loss and subsequent reappearance had sullied the ring, once a symbol of continuity and tradition. For Charles, who had always esteemed tradition, donning it publicly once again would have signified an acceptance that circumstances might revert to normalcy. However, for him, it was evident that circumstances had permanently altered. The lack of the ring has greater ramifications for the monarchy in addition to its personal importance. Royal emblems are not only personal belongings, they are meticulously selected components of the institution's identity. The king's choice to conceal the ring from public scrutiny may be viewed in several ways. Some interpreted it as a sign of emotional distance, symbolizing the deep rift in his personal and professional relationship with Camilla. Some saw it as a strategic maneuver, indicating that some elements of Charles's rule would stay confidential, unaffected by the upheaval that had transpired inside the court. The ring's absence from public display highlighted the evolving dynamics inside the royal family, irrespective of the cause. It transcended mere ornamentation. It had evolved into a symbol of trust, treachery, and the shifting dynamics of power within the monarchy. The palace, while managing the repercussions of the scandal, found the lack of the ring to be a subtle but potent reminder of the events that had transformed the royal environment. Camilla's position, an assertion of authority or an overreach. Within the palace, murmurs about Camilla's intentions and psyche have intensified. Those close to her claim that she supports her behavior despite her public silence following the controversy. Insiders report that Camilla perceives her choice to steal the ring as non-theft and does not think she has exceeded her public responsibilities. For her, the act was not one of rebellion. Rather, it was an assertion of her legitimate position within the kingdom. She has often faced criticism over her role in the royal family, generally considered an outsider without true belonging. For Camilla, the ring was more than mere adornment. It embodied acceptance, a concrete assertion of the regal status she had endeavored to attain. Her perspective stems from the belief that she has endured years of unjust scrutiny. Upon assuming the role of the Prince of Wales's companion, she faced rigorous public and media examination. Despite Charles's ascension to the throne, the expectation